everybody's here, including our city attorney, John Young, and our court reporter, Courtney Tallman. So thank you.
Alrighty. All right, this evening is our monthly meeting of the Board of Adjustment. While we are having to change how we operate, we are still committed to a transparent process and encouragement of public comment during our meetings. We will be accepting public comments based on using the hand raise feature. You can raise your hand at any time and we will recognize you as we get to the public participation portion of the agenda for each case. Planner Newberry will be the moderating the Zoom meeting and will be asked to provide names of those individuals that wish to speak again as hands are raised. I would like to call the meeting of the City of Wildwood's Board of Adjustment to order. The board members present today are Deborah Coleman, board member, Arnie Sprunger, board member, Andrew Bolazina, alternate, Jared Frank, vice chair, and myself, Mary Giles, chair. The Department of Planning staff present is Joe Vunich, director of planning, Kathy Arnett, Assistant Director of Planning, and Travis Newberry, Planner. City Attorney John Young and Court Reporter Courtney Tallman are also present. First, I offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, August 20th, 2020, and take official notice of the zoning ordinance of City of Wildwood, including Chapter 400, Article 2, authorizing and establishing the Board of Adjustment's power and duties. Now let me explain the hearing procedure. Please be aware the information I'm about to describe is also provided on the Board of Adjustment public hearing procedure handout, which was available online prior and up to tonight's meeting. This is an informal type of hearing. However, the meeting's proceedings will be recorded by a reporter for future transcription if needed. The petitions are called in the order listed on the agenda. As the petition is called, I will ask a Department of Planning staff member to read each request into the record. Thereafter, the Department of Planning will have opening remarks and a brief slide presentation. Then the petitioner or their representative will be asked to state their name and address, be sworn in by the court reporter, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the nature of the requested variance and the hardship necessitating it. The board will only consider the nature and condition of the property and whether these factors mandate a variance in order to allow for its full utilization. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts of the petitioner's presentation. When the board is satisfied with the material presented by the petitioner, the chair will then ask if there's anyone present online who would like to speak in favor or opposition to the request. Each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address, be sworn in, and then state their comments. Procedurally, the petitioner may request a continuance at any time during the hearing prior to a call for the vote in order to bring in additional documentation or information. The board may also request a continuance to gather additional information or for a further visit to the site. After the conclusion of input from all interested parties, the board will ask a staff person to provide the Department of Planning's report on this matter if requested by any member of the board, the petitioner, or any individual that is participating online. Additionally, any other information not presented in the previous testimony but pertinent to the request will be noted at this time. Once all speakers have been heard, the chair will call for a motion to grant or deny with or without conditions. Then the board will vote. At that time, the discussion relating to the petition is concluded and no further input will be permitted. The board will generally make a decision today. 4 members of the board must vote in favor of the petition for it to be approved. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use, or it will expire. If the board's decision is unfavorable, the petitioner has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. This appeal must be done within 30 days of the decision. Travis, are there any questions at this time? Hearing no questions at this time, the board will proceed. May the first request be read into the record, which will be followed by initial comments by the Department of Planning and a brief slide presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the board, the first case tonight is Board of Adjustment 17-20, Craig and Casey Starbuck, 2251 Bates Road, O'Fallon, Missouri, 63368. That is a request for an exception to the Natural Resource Protection Standards for the purpose of constructing a new single-family dwelling upon the property located at 18443 Hinken Valley Estates Drive, St. Louis County, locator number 26X140134, Lot 10 of Hinken Valley Estates Re-Subdivision. If granted, the variance would thereby authorize a relocation of the natural resource protection line, as well as its associated 25-foot foundation setback, to accommodate the placement of the proposed dwelling into the currently protected area of the lot while maintaining the approximate amount of preservation on the overall parcel of ground, i.e. an equal exchange between preservation and building areas. This request is contrary to Chapter 420-200, Natural Resource Protection Standards and Procedures of the Subdivision and Development Regulations of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code as applied to properties located in the NU Non-Urban Resident District. Chapter 415-090 NU Non-Urban District Regulations of the City of Wildwood Zoning Ordinance. This particular site is located in Ward 6. Madam Chair, with your permission, the department would like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Zoning Ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning regarding this particular request and all contents contained therein. The department would note those contents include the recommendation report. And then finally, any testimony, exhibits, plans, or other information provided as part of tonight's hearing. Madam Chair, again, with your permission and the board, Ms. Arnett has prepared a brief slide presentation. She can share her screen now and we can see those slides.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first slide just gives an area showing the location of this particular lot. You can see it's highlighted in blue. It's located on the east side of Henkin Road, which is south of State Route 100, near the western portion of the city. There's Fox Creek Road here. There's Greensfelder County Park and Rockwoods Reservation to give you a proximity of the property. This is an aerial of the property itself. Again, it's shown in blue. It's near the cul-de-sac of Henkin Valley Estates Drive. There's a small area of the site that is already cleared, shown here with the trailer on it, which is not there currently if you went out there and looked. But this is where they're proposing moving the natural resource protection area to. As you can see, it's heavily wooded and does slope to the west. This is showing the topographic characteristics of the property. Again, it slopes down to the west and a little bit to the south where this ephemeral drainage way comes in. This exhibit shows where we have issued variances within the subdivision that were very similar requests for a change in location for the natural resource protected area. The 4 red V's show the lots that requested and approved and received a variance to move their natural resource protection area, and then the subject site again is shown in blue. Henkin Valley Estates is a private street that accesses Henkin Road, which is just off to the right of the slide. This is the interior subdivision street at its intersection with Henkin. This is Henkin Road, which is a city-maintained street. As you can see, it's rural in nature. It's not really even 2 lanes in width, so there's no center stripe. Has earthen swales for drainage, stormwater drainage on either side. This is looking towards State Route 109 and standing on Henkin Valley Estates Drive. And then this is looking in the other direction of Henkin Road. This is Henkin Valley Estates Drive near the cul-de-sac. The subject site is on the left, and that is the cleared area where they're proposing moving the natural resource protection area to. This is the homes across the street. This is the vacant lot that's in the cul-de-sac. This is the property immediately to the north in the cul-de-sac that does obviously contain an existing single-family residence. Again, this is the subject site. This is the proposed area of disturbance. And this is the property across the street from Henkin Valley Estates Drive. This property was one that did receive a variance, and they actually moved their building disturbance area further to the south. By them moving their home further to the south and with the petitioner's request to move to the north, it does mean that neither of these homes, they will not be across from each other now. So it kind of maintains a little more rural nature. This is the subject site taken from standing within the cul-de-sac, again showing the flatter area topographically and the area that the disturbance is proposed. And then this is where the natural resource protection area exists currently, where it's platted. You can see it's much more wooded and sloping. So this is the plans that were submitted showing the plot on the top shows where the existing location of disturbance is and then the proposed location at bottom, again moving it closer to the cul-de-sac. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Arnett? All right, at this time, I'd like to call the petitioner forward and ask that you state your name, address, and relation to the property.
Hello, this is Craig Starbuck. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Craig Starbuck. My current address is 2251 Bates Road, O'Fallon, Missouri 63368.
And what's your relationship to the property?
I am the buyer,
Okay.
my wife and I.
And can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes.
Courtney, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Starbuck. Can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
Yes, of course. So the majority of this 3.11 acre lot is not only heavily wooded, but non-viable. It's got a pretty difficult slope to it. The only viable portion of the lot is nearest to the cul-de-sac, as you've rightly explained. And so we're really looking just to relocate that natural resource protection area further to the cul-de-sac so that we can make effective use of the property, both the front yard and the rear.
Are there any board members that have any questions for Mr. Starbuck? All right. There are no speakers in the audience, are there?
I have on the phone my builder, Bud Alsop, with Alsop Custom Homes. I don't know if he has anything to add, but you know, effectively what's been included in the slide deck represents basically what we're looking to do. There would be a slight deviation to the shape of the backyard. It's more triangular in nature as it's currently platted. So we would bring that furthest point in closer to the house and make it a bit more rectangular. But we would retain, as the description reads, basically the comparable amount of area as currently platted.
All right, Mr. Alsop, did you have anything to add? Okay. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Starbuck.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time.
At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity, if there's anyone that would like to hear an oral presentation of the department's report. See no request for that. Does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I do want to note that as part of the recommendation report, the department did have a discussion with Mike Borzillo, who oversees the development of this particular subdivision and the remaining lots. Mr. Borzillo offered no objection to the requested shift in the natural resource protection line and associated setback. As Mr. Starbuck noted in his presentation, the site does exhibit significant topography, and that topography is a physical characteristic that lends itself to accommodating a variance if all other factors are appropriate. And again, the department would note that the change does not increase or necessarily decrease the amount of disturbance on site. It's almost a net exchange 1-for-1. So with that information, the department is recommending that the Board of Adjustment consider this request favorably. Madam Chair and members of the board, Mr. Newberry, Ms. Arnett, and I are available for any questions regarding the recommendation or anything that's been provided to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bunich. Does any member of the board have any final comments? All right, at this time, I'd like to close the proceeding for a vote, and I'd like to call for a vote. Is there a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first motion to approve as requested from Mr. Bolzina and a second from Ms. Coleman.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr.
pardon
Bunich.
my interruption. Regarding the motion and second, that does include the condition relating to recording the revised resource protection area so as that future records will show it accurately, not based upon the old plat.
Mr. Bolzina, do you want to restate your motion?
I'll say, I'll make a motion to approve with the recommendation to record it. How should I say that, Mr. Vunich?
Well,
Record it into the record again?
yes, that's fine.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Sorry to bring it up late in the discussion.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So
All right, we have, I'm sorry, Mr. Bolzina, you finished?
I think so.
All
Hopefully.
right, so we have a motion to approve with the condition that the petitioner submit a revised deed for recording. Is that right, Mr. Bolzina?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I will second again.
All right, we have a second from Ms. Coleman. Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Approve.
Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Bolzina, how do you vote? And I also approve. Mr. Starbuck, your variance request has been approved with the condition that a revised deed be submitted for recording.
Okay, excellent. Thank you all very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Director Bunich, we move on to the next one.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair and members of the board, the next variance is BA 18-20, Matthew and Melanie Kramer, 1563 Highland Valley Circle, Wildwood, Missouri 63005. A request for exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing an attached garage onto an existing single-family dwelling circa 1994, which is to be located upon the property addressed at 1563 Highland Valley Circle, St. Louis County locator number 19V 310391, lot 375 of the Highlands at Chesterfield subdivision, Plat 4. If granted, this variance would authorize a side setback distance of 5 feet in lieu of the required 12-foot standard. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415, 110R1 1 acre resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood's zoning ordinance and St. Louis County Planned Environment Unit, PEU, ordinance number 13691, which was approved by the St. Louis County Council in January 1988. This particular site is located in Ward 2. And again, Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to introduce into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning regarding this particular request and all contents contained therein, which does include the department's recommendation report and 8 letters that the department received and provided. And finally, any testimony, exhibits, plans, or other information provided tonight as part of this public hearing. Madam Chair, Ms. Arnett has another slide presentation if the board would like to see it at this time.
Yes, please.
Again, we'll begin with a overview of where the property is within the city. And this one is in our northeastern section. It's pretty small here to try and get you a better view of the surrounding area. So this property is located in the very back of the Wild Horse subdivision. So Wild Horse Parkway, it's a one-way in up here on Wild Horse Creek Road. So it takes a little bit of time to get back there. This is a close-up aerial of the property itself. It is internal within the Highland Valley Circle, and you can see it's on a curve. The property is generally lawn area. There's a few mature trees around the home and the landscaping there, and then it does actually slope, you can see on the topo, to an ephemeral drainage way that's located in common ground to the south and east of the property itself. This is a view of the home on the subject property. On the right is this current existing 3-car side entry garage. This is a view of Highland Valley Circle. This is looking to the northeast. The subject site is to the right on the slide. And this is looking in the other direction. So now Highland Valley Circle, as it goes around the corner to the south and west. The driveway shown here on the left is the petitioner's driveway. This would be the neighboring property directly across Highland Valley Circle. And this is, I'm standing on the petitioner's driveway here. This is the area where the garage addition is proposed. So it is shown on the plans to be right at the end of the driveway here. Again, this is just another view showing. So it would impact these trees that I believe might be Bradford pears or some type of pear that are here, maybe not living their best life, but right there at the end of the driveway pad. And again, you can see as the property begins to slope just at the rear of the drive pad and existing garage. This is taken just a little bit further down in the yard. These are the 2 existing trees that we just looked at. And again, the slope as the house becomes a walkout basement further into the yard area to the east. Again, just a different view. This is from close to the property line, looking into interior to the petitioner's property. Just wanted to show the slope. And then this shows the proximity of the neighbor to the south and west here for where the garage is proposed. These are the plans submitted by petitioner showing the garage's proposed location off the end of the driveway and where the setback reduction is needed as the property angles to the back. And then this is an aerial showing the public comments that the department received on this request. So the petitioner's property is a little difficult to see, but it's an orange star is the subject site. So the 2 neighbors directly across the street both submitted letters in support. There were 5 letters, as you can see, none right next to the petitioner, all around the neighborhood, that were opposed to the granting of the variance request. And then we had one kind of outlier here, this yellow circle. They weren't really opposed or in support, had just concerns that it would match the existing architecture. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions for the Department of Planning by the board? Ms. Coleman?
Okay, I have a question. The house that would be affected the most, I don't know if it's to the south, or I think the south, did they have any issues? The house that's on the side where the garage would go, where it's a 5-foot. My plat drawing says it's an 8-foot setback. So I guess it's really been amended to a 5-foot setback.
That's correct. The petitioner can explain, but I believe he thinks that it may be closer to an 8-foot, but has requested a 5-foot. But again, I'll let him explain.
Okay, so I was.
But it was submitted at a 5-foot. You're right. That's what the request is for, is a 5-foot setback.
Okay.
The neighbor to the south, we did not receive a comment one way or another from that neighbor.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, at this time, can the petitioner please state your name, address, and relationship to the property?
Yep, you bet. Thanks to the board. Appreciate everybody's time in advance. My name is Matt Kramer. I am at 1563 Highland Valley Circle, and I am the owner of the property.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Of course.
She's must have dropped off the call.
Yeah.
I promise to tell the whole truth.
Mr. Young, given the circumstance, we have to wait for Ms. Tallman, don't we?
We do. We need to have this as part of the official record put down by a court reporter.
All right. Mr. Kramer, if you'll be patient, I'm sure Ms. Tallman's trying to get back on.
No problem at all. I can add some points of clarification if that helps. Would you like me to wait?
Could you wait, please, sir? It needs to be part of the record per the
Yeah.
direction of our city attorney and the Department of Planning. We concur. Mr. Newberry, any sign of Ms. Tallman?
No, I'm not seeing her trying to get back on yet.
Ms. Arnett, can you try to contact her?
I'm texting her right now.
Thank you.
So while we're waiting, this situation kind of brings up a point. You know, if something happens where we get offline or something breaks down, is there a number that the board members can call to reach out to somebody, whether it be Joe or Kathy or Travis or whoever, to just, you know, get a little bit of help and say, at least we're still alive. We want to get back in, but we're having trouble. Is there a way to contact anybody?
I'm going to defer to the experts, Mr. Newberry and Ms. Arnett.
I could just give you my cell number for next time. In fact, I'll put it in the chat for the panelists. Ms. Tallman is trying to get back on, she says. I'm sure she's panicking, but.
Well, if this is any consolation, this is the first time it's ever happened.
Yeah.
Problem at all. It doesn't take me the 7 minutes to get out of the neighborhood and the 7 minutes to get back home. So I saved a ton of time today.
Mr. Young,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple long shot questions if you don't mind.
Have at it.
As a part of the court, I don't know the appropriate term. You are a licensed attorney. Can you administer an oath?
I should not be administering the oath. The chairperson can administer the oath in this situation. The issue is that we have to have a written record of the testimony. That's the one drawback here.
So that was my other long shot question. Would the recording that we're doing on the YouTube channel suffice for the record for the purposes of the hearing?
Unfortunately, no. The statute for boards of adjustment require that by someone such as Courtney, who's just arrived.
Yay.
Hi.
Thank you.
Sorry. Not sure what happened. There we go. I can see all you now. Okay, so I dropped off when Ms. Coleman said 5-foot setback. I guess it's really been amended to a 5-foot setback. Did you go on a long time after that?
Not much. What was explained is that the petitioner believes it'll be closer to an 8-foot distance, but wasn't entirely sure, so had requested a 5-foot distance. The department erred and advertised it, and it was corrected. And so we kind of left it at that. Mr. Kramer introduced himself, which he'll do again, and then we were waiting for you to administer the oath.
Yeah, I think our internet froze again.
Oh, am I on? Okay. Sorry. Okay.
No problem. Yes, my name is Matt Kramer. I'm at 1563 Highland Valley Circle, and I'm the owner of the property.
Mary's dropped off now. There she comes. Technology is awesome today.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I'm back. All right, where were we?
Unmute yourself, Joe. Madam Chair, Mr. Kramer just gave his name, address, and his relationship to the property, and if you wouldn't mind asking him to be sworn in, we can get.
Mr. Kramer, can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Of course.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Can you please explain the nature of the request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you again for everyone's time. This is a practical difficulty. I don't consider it a hardship, but in December of 2018, I moved into the house and found out the day before we moved in that my truck didn't fit in the garage, and that these garages were 1 foot short of what the standard, or if you Google garage length, it is a 19-foot garage, which is 228 feet in depth. So I drive an F-150. It's a standard. It's not an extended cab. It does not fit. That's 231 inches. Also, any future car of standard length that's an SUV extended, like Suburban, would also not fit. It would have ½ an inch on both sides, approximately. So because of that, I was looking to extend or build a new garage. So I'd have two car garages on the property, and the third garage would then be turned into a mudroom or additional laundry room. Currently, the laundry room's 5 feet by 7 feet. So it was an improvement to the property. The 8-foot setback is what I think it would be. However, I didn't get a site survey before this was done. So looking to just cover myself there, I wanted to do 5 foot.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Are there any board members that have any questions for Mr. Kramer?
I had a question, Barry.
Sure, Mr. Molzina.
Mr. Kramer, is this going to be a detached garage or an attached garage? I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that. So I had the architectural committee from the neighborhood come out for two reasons. One, to get their blessing before I spent a bunch of time and effort. And I think one of them is on the phone at least, Bruce Kondracki. And I wanted to clarify something that was in the correspondence I received that stated the HOA or architectural committee was concerned about a street-facing garage, and Bruce is on the call, I believe, and willing to discuss that. It is an attached garage per their recommendation, so it would have a 4-foot overlay that's on that drawing, 4.5 foot approximately, to cover the door that would connect it to what would be then the house and the laundry room.
Okay. So obviously you've been talking to the HOA, that's what you just said. So there's someone on from there for this call? Is that what you?
I believe so. Bruce should be on the call. I don't know if he can raise his hand or.
Okay. Yeah, because I was curious what the homeowners association said about this project. So.
Yep.
Other than that, Mary, I don't have another question right now.
I see Bruce in the, well, now is he on? There he is.
I have another question to Mr. Kramer. In considering putting an additional garage on, what options did you have before you to accomplish what you're trying to get done? And I get what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it froze for a second, but I think I heard the question was what other options are available besides asking for this variance on the setback?
Yeah.
So I didn't really see any other option. We looked at it a couple different ways. Turning the garage and putting it parallel would cause, one, I would still have to have it stick out, right? Because it wouldn't be, you know, flush with the existing structure. It would also cover up some windows and make it extremely expensive to tie into the roof, if not having to redo the entire roof line. I wanted to call out, well, I'll pause there. I'll stop. It wasn't part of the question. I'll answer that and wait.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kramer? Ms. Coleman?
I have a question. Mr. Kramer, the neighbors on the side that you're going to do this, did they have any opinion or did it bother them that you were going to be closer to property line?
You know, that was exactly what I was going to bring up. So perfect.
Oh.
Yep. And I forgot to mention that. So thank you for bringing that up. The two neighbors across the street that would be affected both sent emails and letters basically saying that they were okay with the structure as you saw on Kathy's presentation. 1571 Highland Valley Circle is one directly next to the driveway. Our driveways butt up to each other and there's quite a bit of distance between the 2 yards. Her name's Dolores Millering. She's elderly, not in good health. I have seen her children at the house, and I spoke to two of them. Her daughter and son-in-law, Bill and Kim Rankin, they confirmed that they had no issues. I sent them an email asking them to submit something in writing and have not heard back. So that is something I could submit later if needed. But yes, I have reached out to them. I just haven't been able to get anything back.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kramer? It looks like Mr. Kondracki. Sorry if I just butchered your name. You're on mute, sir. There you go.
You hear me now?
I can.
Very good.
Can you? Well, hold on. Let me get your name and your address.
Bruce Kondracki, 17415 Highland Way Drive.
And what is your relation to the property?
I'm a trustee for the Highlands subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Kondracki. Would you mind being sworn in by the court reporter?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kondracki. Go ahead.
Well, as Matt Kramer mentioned, we did meet a few months ago with him and his wife, and we reviewed the proposed layout, and we could see that it was very close to the line. So we suggested that he, go to the city to see where exactly the easement line lie within his property, which is exactly what he did. So, the width of the driveway is actually, really close to that easement line as well. We didn't know where, if it was an 8-foot or 12-foot or what the easement was. So we suggested that he go to the city and see where that boundary line is. Now, we have not reviewed any of their plans because I don't think he has had architectural plans developed as yet, in lieu of first discovering if the city would allow him to build a garage there. So the architectural committee, of which I'm a member, we have not yet reviewed it. However, I can say that there is no mention in our indentures, not directly or indirectly for that matter, regarding front-facing garages. There are none in the neighborhood, but there are some rear-facing garages, and there are a number of homes who have expanded out the sides of their homes. So it hasn't been reviewed yet by the committee, and we expect that step to be next after architecturals and drawings and plans are submitted.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kondracki? I'm sorry, I keep butchering your name. How do you pronounce your name again?
Kondracki.
Kondracki. Are there any questions for Mr. Kondracki?
Mary, I had one. So you said there were some other homes that have expanded out the size of the homes, but has anyone expanded their garages in the neighborhood?
No, but there are a number of 4-car garages, but again, they are all side-facing garages. One of the allures of the neighborhood is that space that front side-facing garages, permit between houses. That spacing is, what I'm sure attracts a lot of people to our neighborhood. In this case, it is kind of on a curve, and we haven't heard from the adjacent neighbor, but I know she's an elderly lady, and I know Matt has tried to reach out to her and her family to see if there is any issues. But we would again, canvass adjacent neighbors and such to see if there are any issues with the architectural committee.
Okay, thank you.
Once those plans are submitted.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kondracki?
I don't have a question for Mr. Kondracki, but I do for Matt. Is it okay to go back to him, or should we wait till we're done with Bruce?
I think you can ask Mr. Kramer a question.
Okay. So, I understand what it seems like. It's hard to have a garage that's too big. I mean, I get that. But while we were waiting and talking to Mr. Kondracki, I just did a quick Google search just to see what are the standard sizes of garages. And it appears as if they range in terms of depth anywhere from like 20 feet, which would be considered kind of a minimum depth, up to maybe 24 feet. So did you mention earlier that is your garage, is it not 20 feet deep, or is it
19? Yeah,
it's
so
19?
Yeah, it looked like everything would fit. I didn't even measure till after I bought the house. I mean, I wouldn't have bought the house had I known, so it was kind of a rough day. But yeah, I found out the hard way, and I said, you know what? Maybe we'll just make this better here down the road. So
there are a lot of us in the neighborhood who suffer from Matt's same discovery. There are a lot of garages in the neighborhood who evidently original owners did not elect to expand the depth of the garage. And
Yeah, because on the plans or whatever, the boundary survey, it does show that it is 20 feet deep. Is that an error then?
Well, so if you measure from the wall to the door, it's 19 feet. So they're probably accounting if they didn't do drywall from the inside of the studs instead of the outside. And then on the back of the garage door, that's inset from the outside of the house about a foot, right? When you look at, where the outside of the house is versus the metal on the inside of the garage door. It would come down and hit the back of your car.
My garage is 19.1 deep.
Okay.
There's a lot of them in the neighborhood that are 19 feet deep.
Okay.
Sadly to say.
I have
Yeah, I'm
20 feet is really what most cars are designed today, especially.
right. Exactly. And even a 20 foot's it's not real deep, but yeah. I mean, I get that. Okay.
I have a question, Mary.
Okay.
Bruce, you mentioned that you haven't reviewed the plans, obviously, because they're not there yet. Would there be any concern on your end from the distance? Obviously, you guys will be looking at surfaces, siding, roofing, and that.
Right.
You anticipate having any concerns with the basic layout as the picture in the slide indicated?
You know that it is a fair distance to the neighbor's house, but I don't know exactly where the planned line is there, so we have not looked at it from that. We haven't gone back to the site and actually, seen the layout, which is something that we would probably require Mr. Kramer to do, to actually, put some lines into the property to show us exactly where it is relative to the house. And two, hopefully there will be some renderings of the architecturals, and we can see more clearly. Again, I'm only one member of the architectural committee, and it would have to be, a majority, and pretty much majority in this case is everyone. So before we would approve the project. But in having been to the site and actually seen it doesn't appear to be any closer than other parts of the neighborhood. There are some houses that are much closer together, whereas in some lot sizes are not really consistent between street to street. So I don't really foresee that to be an issue at this point. And again, we feel like maybe the garage can be adjusted a bit in width and depth. We could go to 22 feet and perhaps not even get to the depth, encroaching on the easement.
Yeah, you'd pick up a little bit, but probably not a whole ton. So the people who live, and I'm sorry, maybe you answered this and I just missed it, but the people at 1571, they're the ones that are going to have the garage closest to them, right? So did we hear from them or did we not hear from them?
Not in writing, sir. I got an approval verbally from them, and I have an email I got out to them yesterday asking them to respond favorably. I also sent them a notice of this hearing, but it's the children of the lady that lived there that would have to respond.
Okay, and that's the elderly person you were speaking of earlier?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Kramer or Mr. Kondracki? All right, thank you both. At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity to hear an oral presentation of the department's report if there are any requests. Seeing none, I'll offer the Department of Planning the opportunity to make final comments.
Madam Chair, before the department summarizes its report with recommendation, I would want to note that Ms. Arnett did talk to another trustee in the subdivision. And in that conversation, there were, I guess, more concern about the garage itself and its placement, which played a major role in the department's formulation of the recommendation. And if Ms. Arnett would like to just explain that with a little more detail.
Sure. Again, it was a different trustee who had called in and asked questions about the setback. He said that well, he didn't quote the indentures specifically, but did say that they were only side entry garages, or no front entry garages were permitted in the subdivision. And then just had some concerns about the amount of variance and its impact on the elderly woman next door. I believe he spoke with her, but again, I would be relaying a completely different conversation that was, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Yeah, thank you.
And again, the department was concerned about the impact of the front-facing garage. Obviously, Mr. Kondaki, as part of the Architectural Review Board, does not appear as concerned as the department, and they're responsible for all 180 or so homes and lots. The department would not necessarily object to a favorable action if we can get something from the daughter and son and daughter and husband of the owner of property indicating that, as Mr. Kramer has said under oath, was contacted. They verbally did not object. I think that would go a long way to easing the concerns of the Board of Adjustment as well as the department. The department has an unfavorable recommendation, but as noted now, there's a lot more information available, and there appears to be some conflicting opinions on whether front entry garages are prohibited or not. We'll leave that up to the subdivision, at least in the opinion of the department. So if we could get that last letter, I think that would be very beneficial.
Thank you, Director Bunich. Do any board members have any final comments?
So just to be clear, do we have official correspondence from the homeowners association saying that they would be in favor or would accept this project, or do we not quite have that yet?
Well, again, Mr. Kondracki has provided input into the discussion under oath. I think Mr. Kramer's raised his hand and may have more direct information. But certainly you could make that a part of your actions. A letter from the homeowners association indicating their support of the location.
Okay, thank you.
And again, Madam Chair, Mr. Kramer had his hand up there for a second.
Oh, Mr. Kramer, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I was just going to mention that I can absolutely pass along that correspondence if that's part of the requirement to get this approved from the neighbor, saying that they don't have any objections. And then I did not go through the HOA because I was not aware that this hearing would decide, right, that was going to be the next step to get the architectural drawings. You know, I'm trying to avoid architectural fees of a couple $1,000s before, you know, I want to get everybody's approval and all this outlined first. So I did plan on providing that, and of course matching the front of the house and brick and all that. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kramer. At this time, I'd like to close the proceeding for a vote if there are no other final comments. Do we have a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve the request contingent upon two things. Number one, an official approval from the homeowners association. And number two, correspondence from the neighbor at 1571 indicating their support of the project.
All right, we have a motion to approve with 2 conditions. The first being HOA approval, and the second is approval from the neighboring parcel. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, please, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. At this time, I will call for a vote. Ms. Coleman, how do you vote? You're on mute.
Sorry, I said yes with the contingencies.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Mr. Balzina, how do you vote?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Sprunger?
Approve with the conditions.
Mr. Frank?
Approve with the stated conditions.
And I also vote in favor of approving with those 2 conditions. Mr. Kramer, your variance request has been approved, subject to the condition that the neighboring parcel approves it and the HOA also approves it.
Thank you all very much. I'll work on those 2 documents and pass them along to Kathy. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you.
All right. Director Vunich, shall we move on to the next petition?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The next case is Board of Adjustment 19-20, Charles Boyd, care of Jeff Wilkie, 742 Lakeshore Meadows Drive, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of retaining an existing single-family dwelling, circa 1998, which is located upon the property addressed at 742 Lakeshore Meadows Drive, St. Louis County locator number 24U220251, Lot 31 of Fairhaven Estates, Plat 1. If granted, the variance would thereby authorize would authorize 2 separate side yard setback distances of 5 feet in lieu of the required 6-foot standard on each side of the residence. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415, 110, R2, 15,000 square foot resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance and St. Louis County Planned Environment Unit, PEU, Ordinance 17518, which was approved by the St. Louis County Council on August 21st, 1995. This particular lot is located in Ward 7. And again, with your permission, Madam Chair, the Department of Planning would like to introduce into tonight's record regarding this request the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. A file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning relative to this particular request and all contents contained therein, which does include the department's recommendation report. And we did receive 1 comment letter on this particular request. And then finally, any and all testimony, exhibits, plans, or other information provided as part of tonight's public hearing. Madam Chair, with your permission, Ms. Arnett has another slide presentation relative to this site that she can provide to the board at this time.
Please and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lakeshore Meadows is in the Fairhaven Estates subdivision, which is on the south side of Old State Road on the east end of Wildwood. You can see the property, the subject site is shown in the light blue in the center here. The purple line is the municipal boundary. So you can see this is the city of Ellisville. To the north is Nantucket and Lake Chesterfield subdivisions. And again, it's just on the south side of Old State Road. This is an aerial of the subject site itself. You can see it's a rectangular lot on the east side of Lakeshore Meadows that is mostly lawn area and has very little slope, just a change in topography of just a little more than 4 feet. This is a photo of the subject site itself. This is Lakeshore Meadows Drive, which is a city-maintained street with sidewalks, tree lawns, and bold curb and gutter. The subject site is to the right. That's the petitioner's driveway, located here on the bottom of the slide, looking towards the north, towards Old State Road. And then this is looking to the south. This is the cul-de-sac, and the subject site is kind of behind all those cars on the left side of the slide. This is the home directly across the street, so a consistent look in the subdivision. This is the south side of the petitioner's property. The petitioner's site home is on the left, so this would be where the first 6-inch or so infringement occurs. And then this is the north side of the home where the other infringement occurs. This is the petitioner's plot plan, which was the as-built survey done when he purchased the property, that shows the setbacks of 5.67 feet and 5.83 feet respectively. This is an aerial photo showing the comment letter that the department received. So again, the petitioner's site is indicated here in the orange star. The comment came from someone over in the Nantucket subdivision across Old State Road, here indicated with the red X. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions for the Department of Planning at this time? Seeing none, at this time I'd like to ask the petitioner to state your name, address, and relation to the property.
Jeff Wilkie, 742 Lakeshore Meadows Drive, and I am now the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance?
Practical difficulty, if we want to make any improvements, additions, like we plan to in the future, then we will need to get a permit. And with those setbacks going over the line, I think it'll be difficult to get that permit. So I want to keep the house where it's at and be able to improve the current property.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Are there any board members that have any questions for Mr. Wilkie? All right. I'd like to offer the opportunity to hear an oral presentation of the department's report. Seeing no requests for that, does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
Yes, ma'am, but before the department summarizes its recommendation, are there any participants that would like to speak on this that need to be promoted as a panelist? Mr. Dewberry is shaking his head no.
Sorry.
But my apologies, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to make sure we cover all the bases, so thank you. Madam Chair and members of the board, the Department of Planning is recommending approval of the variance. If you noted in the advertisement, this particular project was approved on August 21st, about 10 days prior to the incorporation of the city of Wildwood. So it was the proverbial last horse to get out of the corral, so to speak, before Wildwood became a city. And obviously there were a lot of things going on at that time. So specifically, no one would benefit from not approving this particular variance, starting with the new owner of the property, as well as the city of Wildwood. So again, the department appreciates the cooperation of the Boyds and the Wilkies to get us to this point. And again, we're recommending approval of the variance. If you all have any questions, Mr. Newberry, Ms. Arnett, I'd be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vunich. Are there any questions from the board for Director Vunich? And do any board members have any final comments? Seeing none, at this time, I'd like to close the proceeding before a vote and call for a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions.
A motion to approve.
Who said that?
Jared.
Hi, Jared. Thank you. We have a motion to approve from Mr. Frank. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second from Mr. Sprunger. Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Approve.
Thank you. Mr. Bolzina, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Wilkie, and I, the chair, also approve. Mr. Wilkie, your variance has been approved as requested. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Bunich, are we ready to move on to BA 2020?
Yes, ma'am. The final case on tonight's docket is BA 20-20, Elizabeth Chris Barkey and Martha J. Signorino, my apologies, 217 River Oak Court, Labadee, Missouri, 63055. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing a single-family dwelling, which is to be located upon the property addressed at 1451 Ridge Road, St. Louis County, locator number 26T 440012, part of Lot 4 of the Desterin Estate subdivision. If granted, this variance would authorize a side yard setback distance of 15 feet in lieu of the required 30-foot standard. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban District Regulations of the City of Wildwood Zoning Ordinance. This particular property is located in Ward 6. And Madam Chair, for the final time tonight, if the board would like, Ms. Arnett has a slide presentation of the site.
Please.
Thank you. Ridge Road is in the southeast quadrant of the city and traverses from up at Old State Road, actually right near Mr. Wilkie's property, down and becomes St. Paul Road and then ends into unincorporated St. Louis County. So you can see the property here in the blue located further south along Ridge Road, just past Palisades. This is the Merrimack River and the city's southern boundary at the bottom of the slide. This is an aerial of the petitioner's property, again shown in the teal. You can see how narrow the property is and its length. Again, it has frontage on Ridge Road, which is a city-maintained rural road. The topography of the property, as you can see, is pretty intense by how close together all these lines are. There's more than a 200-foot drop from the level portion of the property up near Ridge Road down to the ephemeral drainage way that runs through, and then it actually goes back up another 80 feet before the south property line. This is a photo of Ridge Road. I'm standing on petitioner's driveway here on the left and looking north and northwest a little bit along Ridge Road. Again, rural road with no improved shoulders or curbing, one lane in each direction and no shoulders. This is Ridge Road in the other direction. Again, petitioner's property is now to the right. This would be the property directly across the street. The home itself, I'm kind of angled a little bit to that direction. This black fence here and some open property is right across the driveway. This is the subject site. The home that exists is currently vacant, but this is, the petitioner's driveway is a good distance from Ridge Road or along the property. The home is located currently pretty central in that narrow lot. So this is standing at the front of the home, looking back towards Ridge Road, and you can see it drops off just a little bit, and you really can't even see the roadway itself from the location of the home. This is the eastern property line, kind of looking in a southerly direction. This is you can see the neighboring home here, and this tree line is on the neighbor's lot. There's a stake kind of right here in mid-slide that shows where the property line is, and I'm basically standing along the property line here, looking again in a southerly direction. And again, the current vacant home is located now on my left. I'm standing on that same property line, but now looking back towards Ridge Road. So this is that same tree line from the previous slide. Now I'm behind the home looking south. So the trade-off from a 200-foot drop on your property means you have one of the best views in town. So that's looking south towards the Merrimack River Valley. This is the western property line. I'm standing kind of further at the back of the house looking towards Ridge Road. You can see some improvements on the property, again, the adjacent property to the west. The property line is right about here. The petitioner is proposing to remove the existing vacant home and this shed, which will actually, looks like it's on the property line. So I think that they'll have even less of an encroachment. And these are the elevations the petitioners provided. So this is their front elevation and the back. So taking full advantage of that view with some open glass at the back of the house. This is the west elevation. So the garage is essentially a side entry on the driveway comes in. And the east elevation. And then this is the plot plan that shows the proposed location of the home. The hatched area on both sides is the 15-foot encroachment on each side. But again, the petitioner is staying, requesting 15 feet on both sides. And the septic field would be requested at a 20-foot setback. This is the aerial showing the public comments that the department received. Again, the subject site is shown in an orange star. The 4 most impacted neighbors all sent letters in support of the variance, and the one that was received in opposition is located here to the northwest along Ridge Road. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions for the Department of Planning at this time? All right, at this time, I'd like to ask the petitioner to please state your name, address, and relationship to the property.
Hello.
Hi.
Start your video, okay. Hi, this is Elizabeth Barkey. I am currently living at 217 River Oak Court in Labadee, Missouri, and I'm the owner of the property at 1451 Ridge Road.
Thank you, Ms. Barkey. Can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barkey. Can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
Yes. Yes, the property is 3 acres, but it's a very narrow lot. It's approximately 105 feet at the location of the current house, and which would be roughly the same location that we're planning the new house. And then it's very, very long, deep lot, over 1,200 feet deep. And as you saw in the presentation previously, it drops off quickly just at the back of, just past where the current house is. So with a 30-foot side setback, that leaves us about a 40-foot or so wide house. And we would like to have something larger than that wide, and therefore we're requesting 15-foot side setbacks.
Thank you, Ms. Barkey. Are there any, do the board members have any questions for Ms. Barkey? All right. Are there any speakers in the audience who want to speak in favor of or opposition to the request?
There are none in attendance currently.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity to hear an oral presentation of the department's report for anybody who so requests it. Seeing no request for that, does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, and thank you. Madam Chair and members of the board, the department has presented to you for consideration a recommendation report that is favorable toward granting the 2 side yard setback distance request. Given the narrowness of that lot and the topography associated with it, any reasonably sized dwelling would need a variance in this particular case. And we believe that the petitioners are not overextending the request, and a 15-foot side yard setback would be appropriate. Therefore, we are making a favorable recommendation for consideration by the board. Mr. Newberry, Ms. Arnett, and I are available for any questions or comments regarding that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vunich. At this time, I'd like to offer the board an opportunity to make any final comments. And I will close the proceeding for a vote. Do we have a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Coleman to approve. Do we have a second?
I will second that, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Approve.
Thank you. Mr. Bolzina, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Approve.
And Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Approve.
And I also approve. Ms. Barkley, your variance request has been approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your work.
Enjoy those views. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. Gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair and members of the board, that's the last case on tonight's docket. And as always, we thank you for your attendance, as well as Mr. Young and Ms. Tallman. We can't do these meetings without you, so we do appreciate it. And I extend my thanks to Mr. Newberry and Ms. Arnett for sticking around too.
Thank you.
The next meeting
Thanks,
is scheduled
guys.
for September 17th, and we do not have any requests yet, but we've heard from at least one person that they will be submitting. So I'll be in touch.
All right. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh.